What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back with another bold take edition of Pound for Pound ATL. Y'all seem to enjoy the 5 bold takes that I had for offense, and one of those bold takes seemed to might be confirmed, I guess you could say. Not necessarily confirmed, but it was definitely echoed by Steve Weiss, which was interesting to see that maybe it wasn't as bold as I thought it was. Well, this time around, I got a bold takes for the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not going to lie, it was hard to come up with some bold takes for the defense because the defense is in shambles, more or less. Outside of like Grady and A.J. Terrell, you don't really have any stalwarts on the defense, at least not yet. We're hoping A.D. Ogundeji turns into one. Same thing with Tyquan Graham. If he sticks on the roster, we're hoping Deion Jones gets back to form. But, yeah, I mean, you don't really have a ton to hang your hat on this defense. Maybe Richie Grant, lives up to that second-round hype, which a lot of us feel like he will. But, like I said, it was kind of tough to come up with 5 bold takes for the defense, but I did it. So, without further ado, in descending order like we did last time, I'm going to start with my least boldest and work to my boldest, okay? So, number 5. Number 5. With the 8th overall pick, with all the pass rushers still on the board that we could hope for realistically, like the Thibodeaux, the Jermaine Johnsons, the Ajobos, all sitting there at 8. I say in my bold take that the Falcons take a secondary player. And the secondary player that I think they're going to take is Sauce Gardner. Now, why you say that's a bold take? As I stated, with the lack of pass rush that we have on this team, for the team to pass up on Thibodeaux, if he's there, Jermaine Johnson, David Ajobo, that could be considered very risky. I was in a space chat the other day, and we were talking about the validity of having 2 lockdown corners. Now, I've not been shy about saying that I want an elite secondary. I think you're close to having that, much closer to having an elite secondary than you are any other position group on the defensive side. And by adding somebody like a Sauce Gardner who can do it all, but is definitely a press man dream. He's a man corner that gives you potentially a no man's island, or no man's land in Atlanta. Now, there's a school of thought that this would be like diminishing returns, and I literally can understand that train of thought. Most teams only have one all-world receiver, if that. So if you're putting A.J. Terrell on that, then you don't need to have this caliber of talent on the other side of the field. But I counter that with saying I want an elite unit, and the no-fly zone in Denver was definitely that. And with the way Pease likes to build his defense, with secondary playing such a major part, the coverages and all that jazz that allows him to dial up those blitzes and dial up that pressure, I think giving him a guy like a Sauce Gardner to pair with A.J. Terrell for the next 5 to 6 years would be absolutely amazing. But I think it would cause a lot of fans to pull their hair out if you had some elite pass rushers sitting there, and that's where we went. So that's my bold take number 5. Bold take number 4, kind of going off of that. So because what would lead us to not draft an elite an elite edge rusher. Sorry, I was just watching wide receivers at the combine before recording this. Anyway, so what would lead us to not draft an elite edge rusher is because I feel like we're going to sign not one, but two. I think we're going to sign Randy Gregory and Derek Barnett as to fill out our pass rush room, our edge room. I'm going to pair these guys with Adi Ogundeji and let it rip. Now, we're going to have to do some crazy stuff for some cap to get these guys underneath that number. But I think the cap will work itself out, and I think Terry Fontenot will swing for the fences and sign an incentive-laden Randy Gregory and a low-risk, maybe 1-2 year deal for Derek Barnett, getting him to try to rejuvenate his career because he hasn't necessarily lived up to the billing of that first-round pick. So I think the reason why we don't draft any edge is because we signed these two pass rushers to bolster our pass rush room, and it kind of goes along with Dean Pease liking and wanting to use more veteran talent or more veteran players than necessarily rookie guys, and this would be a major upgrade to that defensive line. And by doing this, I think you can turn an abysmal defensive line into at least an average NFL defensive line, as long as you're able to bring back guys like Pennell or Rush or something of that nature. So that's my bold take number 4. So bold take number 3 is all these kind of pair off each other. Okay, so bold take number 3 is part of being able to sign Randy Gregory and Derek Barnett. That's not going to leave any meat on the bone for Foye Oluokun. Now that's a big one because Foye was arguably your best, your best linebacker that you had last year. He took to Dean Pease's scheme very well, and he showed out as far as leading tackles, had interceptions, sacks, game-changing plays. But I think he's going to price himself out of Atlanta, and that's my opinion. There is that I think he's going to price himself out of Atlanta and onto another squad, and by doing so, it's going to force the Falcons to run with Michael Walker more, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think when Michael Walker found himself on the field, he was able to make plays and things of that nature. They're also going to run with Deion Jones. I don't think they're going to be able to find a trade partner, so I think they're going to have to either rework his deal, get him to take a pay cut, something. But I think Deion Jones is going to be back in Atlanta next year, and our linebacker core is going to be Deion and Michael Walker. All right. Now, I don't have a nifty graphic for this next one, but number 2 is I don't think, kind of going back to the pass rusher, I don't think they draft a pass rusher at all. As deep as this draft is, I don't think they're going to draft one. And I think that they're going to draft a linebacker. Now, that could be Jesse Licata, that could be Mumo from Wyoming, Troy Anderson, what have you. But my number 2 pick, or my number 2 bold take, is I do not think that they draft a pass rusher at all in this draft, even as loaded as it is. I think that they end up drafting a linebacker instead. I know Pease has had, Suggs and Doomerville in the past, and Landry up in Tennessee, but he seems to like to dial up those pressures, and I think he's going to be looking for linebackers that can do a lot of different versatile things to allow him to dial up pressures and run that creepers defense. All right, so that leads us to our number 1 bold take of the season, bold take for the defense. Drum roll, please. I really need to find a drum roll soundbite. But anyway, I think my number one bold take is that a lot of people think that we might let him go, that we might trade him. But I think what we end up doing is extending Grady Jarrett. I think they're going to make a concerted effort to make him more of a focal point of the defense, get him some help around him to be able to start moving him around. And you say, JR, that's not a very bold take. We've been talking all offseason. Yes, I agree. But I think in the reworking of him, of his contract, the extending of his contract, I think they make him the highest paid defensive tackle, maybe even higher paid than Aaron Donald. Now, I think Aaron Donald's going to get a new contract or an extension or whatnot and be the highest paid, but I think Grady Jarrett is going to be right up there with him. And the reason why that's a bold take, because he doesn't have the same kind of production that Aaron Donald has. But he's an amazing defensive tackle in an attacking four-man front that we have here. He's a piece that I don't think you can afford to lose. If you lose a Grady Jarrett, you really might as well pack it in. So, and I think Grady kind of knows that, you know. And I don't think Grady's going to try to hold anybody over a barrel or anything like that. But I really feel like that Terry Fontenot and the front office is going to try to like set a tone and do a solid and extend Grady Jarrett. Probably have his cap hit be real low this year. But the remainder of his contract is going to make him one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid defensive tackle in the league. So that's my bold takes. Hope y'all enjoy it. As always, y'all can catch us on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128. Toby D is at TobyD1991. Live streams every other week until the season starts back up. Videos like this all the time. You can check out the website, p4patl.com. And yeah, we're dead in the middle of draft stuff and still ramping that things up. But I hope y'all enjoyed that. If you hadn't watched it, go back and watch that Ian Cummins talk from Pro Football Network. He had some really interesting takes on this draft class. And yeah, as always, Falcons fans, let's go back to it. Let's bring it back. As always, Falcons fans, rise up.